well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Second Amendment.
Hi, John. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us today. This is really cool.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
I guess we can just get started, John. I have a question that I typically ask people, and what does the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution mean to you as an individual?
As an individual, it means it's the rights to keep and bear arms, and to for me, it's personally the ability to defend my home, my family, and myself against both civil and tyrannical events that may happen.
Gotcha. Are you an absolutist?
I would say that I'm an absolutist. I believe in those 27 words penned in by the founding fathers.
Gotcha. Not a lot of leeway there then.
No, I work for the only no compromise gun rights organization, so I can't really have any leeway on that.
Yeah, no, I happen to agree with you wholeheartedly. Can you tell us a little bit about the Gun Owners of America as an organization?
Yeah, so GOA was founded in 1976. We are what we like to call the new kids, but old kids on the block. We're going to be 50 years old next year. GOA is, like I said previously, the only no compromise gun rights organization. So we fight on the state, federal, and local level on all infringements on the Second Amendment. Our whole goal as an organization is make the Second Amendment so strong that we actually put ourselves out of a job. I can't think of anybody else who wants to be put out of a job, but that's our whole goal. So GOA we're a membership-based organization. It's $25 a year or $1,000 for a lifetime membership, and we grow on we're a grassroots organization. So most of our stuff is on the ground. We actually have lobbyists who work in DC. Our headquarters is in Springfield, Virginia. So our federal team's always on the state or at the Capitol, talking to congressmen, talking to senators. We're constantly suing on the text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment, constantly going in and fighting some of the infringements that have been happening. And as a whole, we are about 50 employees strong, and we do a ton of events and do a ton of fun stuff. So it's really what GOA is.
Gotcha. So when you say that you guys are fighting for Gun Owners of America, both proactively and reactively, it sounds like, in terms of lobbying, and then you mentioned lawsuits as well.
Yeah. So we do both. We're anytime something comes up. So we've been the biggest cases we've had lately is we've done the veterans rights case. We've done a case on the bump stock. We took that all the way to the Supreme Court. We took the pistol braces all the way to the Supreme Court. We've taken we fight, like New Mexico last year tried to disband carry. We've fought that. So we are not only proactive in lobbying and trying to get things passed, but also we are reactive to some of the things that come up on infringements.
Well, we happen to be in Illinois, so we are very familiar with infringements.
We actually have a case in Illinois. I want to say it's going to court on the AWB.
The assault weapons ban. So I know there's a few cases out there. Where is yours currently? Where does that stand?
It's in, and just talked to our lawyers about this, and I can't remember. It's currently in the circuit in Illinois, getting ready to go get pushed on too. So we've got to fight in that circuit's not the best. So we're fighting some of the things on the judgments going against, because not always they rule on the Constitution. So we've got to fight on that, and then we probably are going to send it down to the Fifth Circuit as well to get that pushed up through there.
Gotcha. Well, appreciate the efforts there. That's for certain.
Could you, John? This is Leigh. Could I ask you if you're able to share with the listeners, and I'm not sure if you have this knowledge or not, how do those cases come to the attention of GOA? Like, can you take our listeners through what that's sort of like? What makes a case that GOA gets interested in? Does it start with you? Does it start with someone else? If you could just go through that, I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, it's a multiple levels. So it'll start with our federal affairs team or our state and local team. So if it's a state issue, it'll start with the state and local team. If it's a Fed issue, it'll start with our federal affairs team. And then we kind of dive into it looking at, okay, how big is the infringement? What's our likelihood of winning this? What can we fight on? Do we have a plaintiff? And then it goes to our fantastic legal team that consists of a lot of very good lawyers. And they kind of go through the case, see if it's winnable, see if find the fact. We got to do fact finding on the case. So there's a lot of cases that'll pop up and people get really excited about. And it could be like a nothing burger, or it could be something that's not as strong as we hope. So we're trying to find the strongest cases that we can fight, or find people who are strong to go into that fight. So there's a lot of cases we've gotten backlash on. There's a lot of cases that we've joined into. So, and if it's not something that we'll join into, we'll always write an amicus brief or some other briefing on the case to help support it.
So is it something where a person already has an attorney and they reach out to the GOA, or is it they usually have an attorney that's with the GOA? Sorry if I'm sounding really ignorant about this, but the truth is that I am.
It's kind of twofold. So a lot of people look at it as being a member of GOA as it's like an insurance, but we're not an insurance. We're a lobbying organization. We're a gun rights organization. So people will contact us on some of their cases, and we'll direct them to the right people to talk to.
Right.
But on like cases like Illinois on the assault weapons ban, we will find either somebody who this has happened to, and we will see how strong the case is.
Yes.
Or it'll be somebody who's already got a case filed, or we'll just file a case on our own.
I see. So it really could happen any of those three ways.
Yeah, there's so many different ways that a case can get filed on our end.
Interesting.
That is interesting. How do you guys go about gaining membership? Obviously, there's the large organization of the NRA that's been around a long time. There's several organizations out there with similar goals. And as an individual, I'm very thankful to have several organizations fighting for our rights, because I think the more fronts that we are fighting with, the more successful we could be. But at the same time, sometimes bringing everybody together gives us a little bit more power, because obviously the court cases require resources such as money to pay attorneys and do investigations and stuff like that. So how does GOA gain membership and promote what they're doing?
Well, to gain membership is very, it's a hard question, but also very simple. So on a lot of the cases, you'll see our name filed. So that's a big way how we gain membership. We file a lot, or write briefs, or co-file with, we've worked with FEC, NAGR, FRAC, all them. So we work really well with the other orgs. But we are at heart a grassroots organization. So GOA itself, to gain members, we are at over 300, 400 events a year just as a team. And then that doesn't count our volunteers that do gun shows and other things. So we are at all the major events. We'll be on the ground talking and getting stuff set up. So it really, as an organization, our grassroots growth as membership is really what drives us. A lot of our members are also very politically driven, or more thinking about the policy and things like that. So we have a lot of strong members by our lawsuits and what we talk about. Another way we gain members is we're very strong on social media. We have multiple YouTube shows. We have what we call our Minuteman Moment that briefs on things that's going on in the Second Amendment. We have one in the chamber with our host Tiffany. She does a different perspective, law and ammo, talks about the laws. And then we have our State of the Second podcast, which I'm a co-host of, and that is dealing with like industry and talking to people like this, just kind of talking, showing the human side of the industry. So that's all those together is one of the main ways, or big ways, that we gain membership. And then on top of that, we have this will be our second year doing our GOA convention called Goals, and that will be in Knoxville, Tennessee, August 9th and 10th. And we do a lot of speakers. Think of it kind of like it is like an NRAM, but we do speakers and talks and things like that, which is a big focus. Plus we have the show floor with gun companies and ammo companies and accessory companies things, so you can get some one-on-one talks with some of these larger companies as well.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff.
Yeah, that show, it's called Goals, August 9th and
Yeah,
10th. You said Knoxville.
Knoxville, Tennessee, August 9th and 10th. Last year was our inaugural show. It's Goals. It's the Gun Owners Advocacy and Leadership Summit. And we just abbreviated it to Goals, and that is our convention. Last year we had Kash Patel, who's up for the FBI director. He
Yeah.
spoke there. Donald Trump sent over a video speech. Brandon Herrera spoke. Mr. Guns and Gear. John Patton. There was so many talks and things I can't even. If you want to watch them, they're on Rumble. The main stage is on Rumble. The secondary stage is on YouTube. And
Gotcha.
there was politicians who spoke. There was content creators who spoke. There was panels. There were talks. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's an event that I'm going to look into attending myself. I wasn't aware of last year's event, and I was very much actually looking for an event because I was unable to go to the NRA convention for a personal matter, and then another event that I normally go to was not happening last year. But knowing about this one, I'm definitely going to look into that.
Yeah, and we should be opening it up to pre-registration should be opening up sometime in February. We'll have hotels and things like that, and then we'll have media badges and things like that will open up in around the same time frame.
That's great. Good to know that. You had mentioned that it's really a grassroots sort of organizations. In with that, I assume it becomes crucial for the individuals in our society where firearms and civil liberties are important to them, for them to consider making a contribution to GOA because you guys are fighting for each one of us as an individual.
Right, and that's the big thing. As a grassroots organization with a name like Gun Owners of America, a lot of people, when they come up and talk to us, they assume because they're a gun owner and they're of America, that they're part of our organization. Being a member of GOA is you're part of the grassroots army. You're part of the group of people who want to see our Second Amendment restored and want to see our Second Amendment grow, and there's a number of ways you can do that. We offer simple services like how to write to your congressman. It takes 30 seconds. We've got a form already pre out on the GOA site. All you got to do is put in your congressman, your senator, or your district, your address. It'll populate who your congressman and senator are. The form will already be pre-filled out. You just got to fill it in. You send it, or there's a spot for to write in instead of that. We also, the big thing with GOA is anytime we get a injunction, our members are covered. So we fight very strongly for our members. So when the pistol brace ban went in, we won an injunction in the Fifth Circuit. I want to say it was the Fifth Circuit because it was down in Texas. I could be wrong, but we won a national injunction. So all GOA members could not be charged for having a pistol race. And anytime we do stuff like that, we are fighting for not only, the gun owners as a whole. Our goal is to make sure that it gets to all gun owners, but we're also fighting for our members, and our members are the main part of most of these larger lawsuits.
Well, with that being said, I'd like to take a moment and just encourage our listeners to visit your guys' website for two reasons. One, to sign up as a member, but then also I really like that what you guys offer in terms of making it so easy for an individual to reach out to their representatives, because the more that happens, the more that the people that are involved with setting policy and voting on policy are aware of what the constituents really want. And if we don't reach out to them, they don't know, and they just start making assumptions.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. You have to, and I encourage everybody, there's a lot of things that can happen in the next 2 years. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the presidency. Now more than ever, I encourage your listeners and anybody out there to spread the word that it is now time to get off the pot and start pressuring these people to do things. We're fighting very hard for national reciprocity right now. There's a number of things that I can't talk about that we're fighting for in the background. Now is the time to talk to your senator and congressman to let them know that we want our rights restored.
That's great advice. It's very timely. I agree. What do you think, John? What do you think the for somebody maybe who's like sitting on the fence or still not sure about the GOA? What do you think are your like the biggest successes that the GOA has had? Like, what are sort of your flagship things that have happened? I know you mentioned a few things, but just in your opinion, what are sort of the hot things that GOA has done and accomplished? And then on the flip side, what have been the things that lately really have either been a disappointment or a challenge to you guys?
Yeah, so the big wins in particular for this year has been the VA trying to get that overturned. That's been a 20-year fight. That's the fiduciary rule. For those who don't know, any veteran who went in for financial help through the VA
Yeah.
was denied their gun rights. So that was one of our big wins. We're still fighting that. The pistol brace thing was a huge win for the year. The bump stock win was also a very big win for the year. And then a lot of the other ones were mostly statewide where it came to constitutional carry laws. Some things that we're disappointed in and we get a lot of flack for is there are bills that on the outside appear to be pro-gun, but they're not. And we get a lot of flack for the best example is up in Michigan. We still get a lot of flack from the folks over in Michigan and in Colorado that we can only do so much in certain states because of the laws, Colorado being one of them. But the one in Michigan was the bill was filled with a lot of bad red flag laws and a lot of bad things. So as a whole, we fought against it, and as a organization, it kind of looks bad that you're fighting against a constitutional carry bill. But if there's bad law in it, we have to fight against it
I
because
see.
it is what it is, unfortunately.
That makes sense. One thing that makes me raise my eyebrows a little bit is when I hear about politicians considering mass shootings and gun violence as a public safety epidemic. I always get a little concerned that if they can get enough people to consider gun violence, I'm using air quotes, as a public safety epidemic, does that give them more leeway to kind of skirt the process and implement restrictions under the guise of public safety?
Yeah, the anti-gunners are really good at using bigger terms or using other angles to get our rights taken away, and public safety is one of them. They've started doing that. The other one is public nuisance is another one where they're trying to get gun stores and gun shops shut down as a public nuisance or a nuisance to the public due to gun violence.
No
There's a
kidding.
lot of things that are crazy to think that they can go after it through this public health crisis that gun violence instead of attacking what the real root cause of the issue is, and that is mental health.
Yeah, and that is something that I've seems like I'm hearing that type of verbiage on an increased level, and I just get concerned that it creates a back door for policy without having to go through the process of the voting process.
Yeah, and if it does come down to that, we will be fighting tooth and nail to get it overturned. It's a scary thing that we have to deal with. Like I said, the anti-gunners are not dumb, and we've seen this before with the anti-gun rhetoric is that they always want to are always trying to be the loudest voice in the room. And as pro gunners, we need to unfortunately take a page out of their book and become that loud voice in the room that needs to be heard. And like I said earlier, we've got 2 years to do it before we've got midterms.
So what would you say to encourage just your average gun owner? What is your advice to them moving forward? Is it become part of your organization and others, and just write their local politicians and their state politicians?
As an average gun owner, and that's a big thing for GOA, is it's going to be a big focus for us in 2025 is getting the average gun owner activated. I would highly recommend becoming a member of GOA. Take our advocacy training, look through our things where we talk about gun rights advocacy, how to be more involved in the gun community, how to be more involved in restoring gun rights,
So,
how to build
sorry to cut you off, John, but
Yeah.
are you saying that there's a portal on your website where an average gun owner can learn how to be a better advocate for gun rights?
It's not there yet, but we
Okay.
do have a lot of tools built into the website where it tells you how to become a better advocate.
Okay.
We will be offering some advocacy training here shortly. And like I
Great.
said, this is going to be a big focus for us for 2025
I
going
like it.
forward. But there's a lot of things in our website, a lot of tools and things how to be. We every time there's something that comes up, we do a press release on it or a talk or some sort of article. So there's plenty of articles and things to read on what's going on, not only locally but federally. And we've got tools on how to be an advocate, especially if you watch a lot of our videos and things like that. It'll teach you how to be a better advocate. But back to the original question,
That's great.
as a gun rights, as an average gun owner, we
Yes.
see a lot of the average gun owner, in my opinion, is somebody who, and we saw a spike in 2020. We've got 30 or 20 or 50 million new gun owners, depending on what statistics you look at. The average gun owner is somebody who owns maybe 1 to 3 guns, either a handgun for home defense, self-defense, a shotgun for home defense or hunting, and a rifle of some sort for either hunting or again, home defense purposes. The big thing is as the average gun owner, and we talked about this with our pistol brace case, is overnight, if you are not in this echo chamber of gun rights or this echo chamber of being a gun owner or just being an average gunner, not in the echo chamber of consuming so much gun content like myself, I wouldn't consider myself an average gun owner. You don't understand what's going on. And as a gun rights activist, as somebody who works for GOA, the goal is to activate those people to become more involved, because they may have just joined this movement because they saw what was going on during the riots, or saw something, feared for their life because of this. Now is the time to go, okay, well, I'm an average gun owner. I own A, B, or C, or I own 1 of 3. Now is the time to go, okay, well, what's going on locally? What's going on federally? What's happening to my gun rights? Oh, I could have these taken away. We talked about the pistol brace in our case. Overnight, it turned 60 million Americans into felons. How many of those Americans who are not in the echo chamber of the gun space did not know that they were felons overnight?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so now is the time, as an average gun owner or even a avid gun owner or anybody, is to find those people who are just getting into the space and build a community, get them into this and get them to become not only a member of GOA, but to fight for their gun rights, to continue this fight, because without those people, we may start losing some of our rights. And the old saying goes, they came for my AR and I said nothing. And then they came for my pistol and I said nothing because I don't use that or I don't need that. They came for my shotgun and I said nothing. And then they came for my hunting rifle and then I had nothing. You know, they're going to slowly chip away at this as piece by piece. Now is the time to go. No more. We want to strengthen this to be stronger than ever.
Do you guys? I agree with you 100%. And I've got several questions. My mind's kind of bouncing all over the place because I've got so much I want to ask. But one of the things that I want to ask is, do you guys as an organization look back to any of the what I would call old bills that got passed in the 30s and the 60s, you know, the NFA? Do you guys examine that sort of stuff and try and pick apart anything that some people would now consider common sense gun laws, because those are also infringements? Or is it more, are you guys more focused on current day stuff?
Yeah, we're focused all the way back. So we fight on like I said earlier, the text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment, going all the way back to when it was the original 27 words were penned by our founding fathers. We are currently fighting. We have bills in the House and the Senate on the NFA fighting suppressors. We're looking at fighting the GCA. We're looking at fighting some of these things and try to pick them apart. You know, the big argument, and I guess this is what we got when they said that the AR-15 part of the Second Amendment is in common use, and that's going to be our argument, or could be our argument for suppressors. Now that the wait times have gone down, they could be in common use now. We're seeing more people get into things that were NFA items than ever before. And now we have the ability to go, well, these are in common use. They shouldn't be on the NFA. We shouldn't have these things be restricted because of a law written in 1934 with a tax because it was the cost of a Thompson submachine gun.
I'm really glad to hear that. Well, let me ask you this. If somebody wants to get more involved, other than, say, writing a congressman and whatnot, how does somebody become, say, an active participant with the GOA?
So that's easy as well. You can go to our website. We have a whole department dedicated to volunteers. We have a huge volunteer department. We pull our volunteers for events at the state level. We also have state directors that they can talk to, or not every state has a director, but we're always looking for state directors. We're always looking for volunteers. It's really easy. I believe there's a spot on our website where you can go in and sign up to be a volunteer, and they'll reach out to you and get everything they need for that.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that for my own use, and then hopefully some of the people that listen that want to get involved in whatever state they're in. I'm glad that you guys make it easy to allow people to help, because I think that there's a lot of people that are willing to stand up and help without necessarily knowing a route to do that. So
I think a lot of the people that I do quite a bit of firearms training here in Illinois, and I think a lot of my students and clients, they're interested in doing something, but they just really don't know how.
And like I said, becoming a volunteer is one of the steps. Another way of helping, and this is going to sound mean, but donating really helps our lawsuits.
Oh, sure.
Every dime. So 90% of all money donated to GOA goes straight to lawsuits. The other 10% goes to pay people's salaries and upkeep and things like that. But 90% of all our funds, 90% of all our funds go to things. The other thing I highly recommend that you do is look up your state lobby days. Look up when they're doing Pro 2A rallies in your state. Go and be a voice and go there and talk and don't go in with a very angry mindset. Go in with a very well educated and very monotone talking mindset to talk to these people, because you don't want to go in and start screaming, but go in and start talking to them like they're there. And the more we can do that, the more we can humanize the people behind the Second Amendment, the better it is.
For sure.
Do you feel as though that makes a difference for our listeners, for the people that sit there and go, I'm one person. What am I, what am I going to do, or what am I going to say? Do you feel, from your experience, what you've seen, each additional person that is expressing their views and their ideas, does each additional person make a difference?
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. The big thing to think about is if you contact your senator or congressman, somebody's looking at that constantly. So if it's 10 people say something versus 1,000 people, it'll make a difference depending on how big the voice. The anti-gunners are very good at mobilizing and making their voice known. As people fighting for the 2A, I'm going to say as conservatives, we want to be left alone. We don't want to throw a ruckus. Well, now's the time to take a page out of their book, and now is the time to throw the ruckus. Throw those things. The more people we can get at lobby days, the more people we can get at Pro 2A rallies, the more we can get contacting senators and congressmen, not only on the federal, but also don't forget about your state level senators and congressmen. The more likely they are to listen to our voice. And the more people who do it, like I said, it takes 30 seconds to do this.
Right.
Take the 30 seconds out of the day, hit the send, and the more people that do it, the stronger that voice is, the more pull we have with these congressmen and senators to actually look into this stuff.
And that makes sense, because I've heard we've now been doing the podcast for about a year. The website started a little bit before that, and some of the conversations I had with people when we were getting going with this was I heard more than a few times. Aren't you worried about ending up on a list somewhere? And I think as conservatives, sometimes we do worry about ending up on a list and being singled out and becoming a target. And I think we have to get past that as a group.
Listen, if you're not on a list, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, I
I
agree with you.
listen. I'm pretty sure I'm on multiple lists because every time I go through TSA, I get patted. So it's only a couple pat downs. It's not that big a deal.
Right, absolutely.
Hey, John, would you be interested in telling us like what your genesis was? How did you wind up with this awesome gig where you're doing podcasts about guns, and what was your background, growing up with firearms? Like, how did this happen to you where you found yourself in this position talking to us?
Yeah. So as a kid, I grew up with guns. I think it was like eighth Christmas. I got a Red Ryder BB gun. My dad was a hunter, so I grew up around guns. Went to college at the University of Akron in Ohio,
Were you like
and
at the time? Were you like conscious of like gun rights at the time, or was it just not really at the forefront of your mind?
it it wasn't really when I was a kid. It wasn't really at the forefront of my mind. But when I got to school,
Yeah.
it became that. So as I got older, got more into it. The first gun I bought as an adult was a $89 Mosin Nagant.
Yeah.
Back when they were $89.
Yeah.
Got a buddy and I got really into guns, went to the range often, and then we joined a group on campus, which was our mascot Zips for concealed carries for the University of Akron. So joined in on them, started some empty holster kind of rallies. Finished my associate's degree there. Went to Kent State University to finish my graduate. At the same time that Caitlin Bennett was doing her thing, and I got into the gun industry in 2012, and I call it getting into the gun industry. I was working for Dick's Sporting Goods at the gun counter
Yeah. Yeah.
back when everything was going crazy.
Well, that's the
Uh,
industry.
yeah, started there, became a manager at Gander Mountain when they were a thing for about 10 months before they went bankrupt at their gun counter. Left there, went to a gun range in Columbus, Ohio, finished up my degree at Kent, and in marketing went and worked for a gun range in Columbus, Ohio, where I was doing their marketing and some stuff. And in 2019, a job popped up at Faxon Firearms. Went and joined them for 3 years, working in their sales department. Left them. The marketing director from Faxon left. We went to a ammo company out in Phoenix, where I worked there for about 2 years. My boss, Kaylee, who's the director of marketing and development at GOA, met her at an event, decided I wanted to be more involved, and was kind of done with the ammo space and decided it was time to move on, and went and worked for GOA.
Wow.
But she hired me to do the podcast. You didn't tell me until after I got hired.
Gotcha.
Had you known, would you have turned her down?
No, I would have just. I was ready to leave the ammo space. I was doing all the social media and YouTube stuff for them, and it was just time for me to go and do something different.
And that was during a time when if I recall correctly, the ammunition industry had a lot of hurdles with supply and demand.
Yeah, it was a crazy time, and then the market fell out, so it was time to go.
Gotcha. So you ended up at the GOA. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a happy accident. I ran into he's the Pacific Northwest director for state and local, Monty. Ran into him at an event and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a new job," and we got to talking, and then I got a phone call from her a couple weeks later saying, "Hey, I heard you're interested in moving on," and I said, "Yeah." And then I flew out and had dinner with Eric Pratt and John Valecco, the VPs of GOA in DC, which I've never been to DC, but I also never want to go back. Sorry, guys. But went out there into the swamp where it was going from a dry heat of Phoenix where it was 120 to 93 and 100% humidity was
Oh,
not
yeah.
something I wanted. Met with them, got the job offer, and right after I accepted and started working, I flew back out to DC for some training and talking. And she's like, "Hey, by the way, in 2 weeks we're flying down to Myrtle Beach to go film the podcast." And I go, "What podcast?" And she goes, "They didn't tell you?" And nope. What are we talking about? She goes, "Oh, we're doing this podcast." It's like, okay, cool. I guess I'm in.
How's that going for you guys with the podcast?
Oh, it's going fantastic. We started it so we're just over a year old, and we're about 70 episodes deep now.
Oh, wow.
It's great. Get to talk to. We've had the vice president of marketing from EOTech on, the vice president of marketing for Canic, Jamie McCullum, the owner of Palmetto State Armory on, Pete Brownell, just to name a few that have been on the show. And it's been fantastic just getting to know these guys and talking to them and kind of humanizing the industry.
Now, I make the assumption, and it makes all the sense in the world to me, but I do want to confirm with you, these larger organizations, these companies, I would have to imagine that these guys are also lending quite a bit of support to the GOA, because without a lot of gun owners and without the ability to use our firearms for self-defense and or sport, these guys don't have anyone to sell product to. So I would imagine you get a lot of support from several of those manufacturing companies, correct?
Yeah, PSA is one of our largest supporters. We just did a custom Canic TP9 that's being sold through Classic Firearms. There's still a handful of those available. If anybody listening wants a cool GOA Canic TP9, it's MC. It's the micro compact version. We've done a lot of partnerships with a ton of different companies: Night Vision, X-Tac, trying to name them all, Blackout Coffee. But yeah, all these companies are big supporters of us, and PSA is our largest supporter, and we really appreciate them because they will help us file lawsuits and things like that. So it's really great to work with them.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's great to hear that the manufacturers that want us to buy their product are also there supporting the organizations that help us be able to buy their products.
Yeah, and it's been a whirlwind meeting all these guys and seeing how much support they're pushing into it.
You had mentioned that there's a couple things in the hopper, and there's plenty of things that you can't mention specifically. So I'll ask you a question that's very vague. As a avid gun owner that's looking at living in a state with a lot of restrictions, do you think gun owners through the country should be optimistic about the future with some of these policies that we're dealing with?
Yeah, I would say be optimistic. Right now, the biggest thing they can do is contact your senator and congressman about national reciprocity. Get that across the finish line.
Right.
We are at 49 states with shall issue permits after our lawsuit in New York and California. The last one is Hawaii. So there's that. We're pretty close on having all the states be able to get out-of-state permits, as well as we're at, I want to say 29. I think we're at 29 states with constitutional carry.
I believe that number's right. 29
right.
is what sticks in my head too.
So now more than ever is the time to push them for national reciprocity. And then we've got the Hearing Suppression Act and the Shush Act, both in the one in the House, one in the Senate, to get suppressors removed off the NFA. And that's going to be a fight that you also need to start contacting your senator and congressman about. I have a feeling that there's some other big ones that are in the hopper that I've talked to our legal team that we can't talk about right yet, but I have a feeling we're going to be fighting a bunch of these big cases coming, especially with everything that we have going on with the Senate and the House and the presidency. I think we're going to be seeing some policy changes.
That's really good to hear. That's very encouraging. If I recall correctly, I signed up for the GOA a few years back for a 1-year membership. I did not renew, not intentionally, just slipped my mind. But I'm definitely going to sign up again. I would encourage our listeners to sign up, consider that lifetime membership, and support the people that are helping us, enjoy our rights.
Couldn't have said it any better.
Well, thank you very much, John. Leigh, was there any additional questions that you wanted to?
No, I thought it was a very enjoyable interview. It was very interesting. I do have one more question, if you don't mind, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. What interests you in guns at these days? Like, is it, it sounds like you started out with a sort of a historical military kind of gun. Are you more in like the collecting? Do you do sports shooting, hunting? Like, what are your interests there?
Right now it is a wide spanning span of guns. I have in front of me about 7 guns that I have lined up to do. On the side, I have a YouTube channel called Fully Loaded Reviews that I do
Okay,
YouTube reviews on.
cool.
That's about a year old, the channel, but I've got guns here from Springfield, Palmetto, Beretta, T-Sauce. I've got a Yeet cannon sitting here from High Point that they sent out for review. Some
Would you
stuff from Global
describe
Order.
yourself then
So
kind of like a collector? Like, is that how you would?
I would say, if you were to ask my wife, I'm a hoarder.
Okay.
There's the way to put it, a collector,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
hoarder. I've got a little bit of everything.
Awesome.
I've got some new product launches that I can't talk about with Springfield that will be coming out around SHOT
Oh,
Show.
that's exciting.
I've got I'm in a weird space because
Yeah.
as somebody who does YouTube on the side and somebody who has always had a passion for guns, and as a poor college student, I was the one who had a lot of cheap guns, but also a lot of historical guns. Um, it's been kind of a weird roller coaster ride over the last 2 years doing content for people and getting stuff done. So I guess I'm a collector slash hoarder with everything I've got. Um, Sitting here, they make fun of me because I will dry fire practice during meetings, and they're like, "Can you stop, please?"
That's awesome.
I don't
'Cause
hear
everything's
nothing I have
Yeah, I
issue
haven't
with
heard
so
any
far.
clicks or anything.
Everything's great.
That's
I've
pretty good.
I've been really good this episode. Not play. I just got some grips for my high power that I swapped over, so I've been messing with that. I've got a
I was going to ask
PSA
you
micro dagger.
what gets your blood pumping lately? Is it your high power? What really?
Oh, ooh, it's hard. My blood pumping lately. I've had a lot of fun with some of the new imports coming in from Rock
Really?
Island, and Rock Island had some import stuff that I tried out. They've got their new Glock clone, the DY9, and their new Beretta clone, which is the
Ooh,
MK9. I've been playing with those.
I'm
Uh,
unfamiliar. I'll have to check those out.
those are new to the market.
Are they up on? Do you have
Got
something on them on your fully loaded show?
Yeah, I've got both reviews up now. We just did the
I'm looking for things to do this weekend, John.
yeah, I was just doing we just did an episode or a video on the Echelon Compact. That's one of my favorite guns,
Ooh,
the
nice.
Echelon
Yeah,
of the whole line.
yeah.
Um, let's see what else. I've been getting into 2011s too, but
Mm.
I'm a cheapskate, so I got cheap 2011s. So I've got the Springfield Prodigy that I got when I was working for the other company. I've got one that I've been messing with for a while. It's one of my go-to fun.
Joe's
Take
eyes
people
lit
out to
up
the
when you
river.
said that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that I've eyed that one a little bit.
yeah, I've got that one. I've got things I can't. If I could talk about the things that Springfield's coming out with, I've got one of them sitting here, and I really have enjoyed that.
Cool.
The T-Sauce 1911 DS. I've got one of those. I really like that. That's a $600 2011 that I'm very impressed with. Um, but like my collection started off with like cheap guns and then military guns because military guns were cheap. So
Yeah, they were. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is it
I've
still
got
that way?
not anymore. It's not as cheap as it used to be, but I've got in my collection right now. that I can think of. I've got a Mosin, a Carcano, or two Carcanos, a Mauser, a Arasaka, um, what was the other? Oh, a 1917 Enfield pattern rifle,
Wow.
a Mark IV Enfield, and then I got into surplus handguns. I've got a gun made by Husqvarna, of all
Get
things.
out.
It's a FN 1903 pattern gun made by Husqvarna. I've got two Makarovs, a Tokarev, a Nagat revolver, and then a slew of old revolvers. I bought a Colt when they came in on surplus. I really like old guns,
Yeah.
but I really like some of the new stuff. So I've got a
Yeah,
spot for
clearly.
like I
Interesting.
bought I got really so a lady I used to work for, her husband passed away, and him and I were talking about. We used to talk about guns, and she goes, "Do you want to buy any of his guns?" I go, "Yeah, I'll buy one of his guns." So she brings down this yellow box, and I look at the yellow box, and I open it up, and it's got a yellow box with red felt. It's an original West German 226.
Wow.
And so I bought that from
That bought
her
that right
and
away.
some other stuff. Yeah, there's I've got some, Winchester 22s. One of the coolest guns that I guess I bought is it's Mark's Springfield Savage. It's an old 22 tube fed, but it's semi-auto, but the bolt it goes forward and gets locked back by the trigger.
Hmm.
So you pull the trigger, the semi-automatic, the bolt goes back until you release the trigger. The bolt doesn't go forward. So that's one of my fun, weird guns that
Yeah,
I
that's
keep
interesting.
with it. But I'm one of those suckers that will used to walk into a huge section of a gun store and go, okay,
Yeah,
I'll take that and
yeah,
that
you
because
just
they're
go over
cheap
there.
for
Yeah, yeah. I got my start working at a gun store too, outside of the city of Chicago. It was like the only game in town for people in Chicago. They had to go out of the city and go there, and they had a pretty big used section, and a lot of people would go back there and pick up some of the military stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
John, you had mentioned SHOT Show. Is that something that you attend?
Yeah, I'll be at SHOT Show this year. SHOT Show is one of the biggest things for GOA. We'll be in the basement, and I have to pull up the booth number because I don't remember it off the top of my. We are in the basement at booth 43748. Um, I will be at the booth sparingly. I have currently 37 meetings set up
No
that I have to
kidding.
run around the show. So I've
Wow.
got 37 meetings set up with our biggest partners and companies. So I'm excited about SHOT Show. It's one of the weeks I dread, but it's also only a 4 hour drive from Phoenix. So I drive up there. I got my truck, so I can leave whenever I want, and I spend the whole week doing SHOT Show, and it's meeting, dinner, then Circle Bar to hang out for a while.
Gotcha. Well, this is I've wanted to attend SHOT Show before, but this year, this a month from now, I did get the media credentials, so I'm really excited to attend this year. It'll be my first time.
I will warn you, it is overwhelming. I've seen people crawl up and cry in the corner, so don't be one of those people. It'll be a little overwhelming, but you'll have fun.
Good, good. Looking forward to it. And it sounds like you'll be real busy, but I'll probably still come by, and if you're there, introduce myself and shake your hand.
Yeah, the best day probably to come by is going to be uh, Thursday afternoon because I'm at the booth at 3:30. I've got a meeting, and then from 3:30 to 4, and then I'll probably just hang out at the booth after that. Not go anywhere else. I've
Gotcha.
got like 5 meetings Wednesday. I've got 5 meetings in a row at the booth, and then I've got like 7 more meetings that I have to run around the show floor for. It's
So
going to
the
be a fun time.
so those meetings, what I'm curious when you're at SHOT Show representing gun owners of America, what do those meetings consist of? Are you meeting with vendors?
Yeah, I'm meeting with so let's just see. I can say something. So I've got meetings right now with Primary Arms, Hyperion Ammunition. We're going to be doing something cool at SHOT Show. I've got a meeting with KCI, High Point, Global Ordnance, EAA, Mossberg, HK. Rugged Suppressors, Anderson, Night Vision, Brownells, Gunbroker, Faxon, Shadow Systems, like Glock. These are meetings where, we're talking about partnerships with GOA, talk about getting membership cards inside gun boxes, talk about, giveaways we're doing for the year, any donations they want to do for the year for any auctions we're running.
Excellent.
Just a ton of stuff. Just talking about partnership and how we can better help each other.
Very cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. I'm glad to hear that, and I wish you a lot of luck with that because
Yep.
the more help you get, the more help you guys are.
Get them, John.
I will. This is good. Right now, 37 is my second highest. My highest meeting total was last year. I had 54 meetings.
Wow, that's impressive.
Cool.
Yeah, John, I would like to take a moment and just tell you thank you very much for
Same here.
responding to my message, taking the time to enlighten me and Leigh and our listeners on what you guys do. Hopefully, we can get you guys a little bit of support, and moving forward, I think we'll be in contact again. I have to say.
Yeah, whenever you guys want to do another one, I'm in for it. I appreciate you reaching out. It's been a fun hour to hang out and kind of talk about GOA.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, John. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for your time.
All right, talk soon.
All right,
Bye.
bye.